Garrett Blevins here with an overview of my first strength day. So pretty much what goes on here is I still have my incline press, but when I go to my deadlifting, I pretty much have cut down the reps and sets substantially, and I'm really focusing on going to an RPE 9 or even 10 on these days. Probably not 10 for all the sets, but at least 10 on some of them. So as you see here, incline pressing strength is up a little bit from last week. I was able to use 275 or 285 for all the working sets, which I was pretty happy with. That's getting my strength back up there to pre-meet levels. And for sets of 6, that's pretty good for me as I get pretty fatigued, especially my triceps on this incline pressing. You'll see I'm arching pretty hard here as well. And that makes it a little bit easier because it makes it a little bit closer to a flat bench. I may lower the angle on this incline just one more notch down next week to make it a little easier. Felt this day like I was pressing pretty much overhead, and as I look at it, it doesn't seem that way so much, but again, that's because I'm arching out there, and it might be nice to just knock that down one more notch so I don't have to arch as much, since that's probably not good for my lower back. In any case, I didn't look back to see what I had done in the last training cycle, but I know that 285 for any of the working sets is getting up there as far as what I was able to do on the sets of 6. That last set of 285 there, though, did tire me out, so I dropped back down to 275. I had put 270 in as what I was shooting for on this day, so I was definitely able to make some improvements there. One thing I've noticed is just that with incline pressing especially, the strength really kind of is low at the beginning of the training cycle, and I build and wave into it, and it improves a lot. Here I'm trying to explain, or show rather, what it looks like when you're setting up for a sumo deadlift. So you want the bar up as close to your shin as you can. People talk all the time about like, oh, how are you not knocking your toes off? Well, I've got 3 fingers width in between the bar and my toes, so it's still pretty far away from my toes. And as I bend down to grab the bar, you see how the weight goes on the outside of my foot there and into the heel. That's where I'm putting the pressure as I'm pushing my weight out over the sides of my feet, and I'm spreading the floor that way. Now when I grab the bar, that's what allows me to pull my entire foot back into the ground, but I'm keeping that pressure in the outside of my foot because I use that pressure in the outside of my foot to get the bar off the ground for that first 2 inches before I start the pull. You'll see in that lift right here that the first 2 inches or so off the ground, that's me spreading the floor where the weight is going outside that outside edge of my foot right there, and then it turns into a push where I activate my quads and snap the weight up to lock out. And so it's a 2-part movement. It is first that movement out to the side to break the floor and bring the weight up, followed then by that accelerating pull with my back as I continue to lock out my legs. And so it's a push followed by a pull. And you'll see this again as it plays through here in slow motion, how that first 2 inches comes by breaking the floor, spreading it apart, and then bringing it up to lockout. So here's another shot. This is full speed. I think that the setup is very important to be able to get that spreading of the floor or pushing that pressure out through the outside of the foot and of the ankle. One is setting up with your weight kind of backwards almost. You should have to grab the bar to be able to pull yourself in where you get that full foot flat. At least that's what works for me. And it really lets me activate those legs out that way and then pull the weight up to lock out. If you don't set up properly, then it's very difficult to get that, exterior push where you're sliding. The idea is that if the floor was slippery, you would be doing the splits. And also the way that you point your toes out is very important. Some people will need to feel their glutes and hips engage. They're going to need to point their toes, out more. Some people will have their toes a little straighter. You need to wiggle around back and forth to find that perfect spot. In any case, here's where the strength day starts. This is 585 for 3x5 from the floor. I'm really working on externally rotating, getting my shins as vertical as possible. As you do that, though, you also want to make sure that you're keeping your chest up. Um, from a series with Ed Cohen, he's okay with some arching in the upper back, but the lower back should remain neutral. I kind of have a flat back all the way through. One of the things that I need to work on is actually my upper back strength so that the weights don't round me over. You'll see on a couple of these reps, especially that one, I got out in front, and you saw just being a fraction of an inch out in front, where the bar wasn't against my shins, made it really a grindy rep. And so those are things to work on. Here we got some more editing gains. You've seen this before, but it is rare, picture-in-picture. And so the reason the top angle is important is it lets me look at my my leg angle a little better than the front. From the front, it's difficult to tell if you're getting that leg externally rotated in the shin vertical. But these really, I think, felt and moved pretty well. I was happy with how they moved, especially with all the pause squatting from last week. Now on some of these I would have liked to have gotten my hips a little closer to the bar so that lockout was easier. The last rep of that set was good, but the second to last rep was not so good. There was a lot of locking the weight out with my back. And I need to get my torso a little bit more upright and then sink down a little bit more to lift these optimally. Again, big focus on this day, off the floor, spreading the floor. And you're going to feel your glutes engage. You're going to feel a lot of tension on that, the quad on the outside of your leg by your IT band. And then once you get the weight off the floor, break the floor, then you snap the legs and lock out the weight. It's important also each time you reset to get your torso upright, retract the shoulder blades. I don't do a great job of that on this day with all of my reps, which makes the lockout a little difficult on some of these. Really, almost all these sets were RPE 10 because that last little inch there of lockout was all I could muster. And some of that had to do with the pause squats and my lower back fatigue. So block pulls, going with 625, definitely felt nice to put a little bit of weight on the bar and do these. A lot of them moved okay. This first set, I would say, was my worst one. I tried to do touch and go and stay tight in between the reps, but that just doesn't work well for me. If it works for you, great. I think it's actually a better way to do it, but I just have issues staying tight in between reps. So I need to work on that. That's something I can improve on. I think this first rep is a rep that moved pretty well to lockout, yeah. And again, you're seeing that same thing of spreading the floor for about the first inch, and then instead of pushing the floor out, then I start pulling with my back and locking out my knees. And so it is kind of a two-part movement, but you want it to look so seamless that it looks like a single motion. The more you can externally rotate, the more upright you can sit, and the stronger your hips and glutes are, obviously, the better you're going to be able to do that. And I believe this is my last set. I did the 3x5 from the floor, as well as 3x5 blocks. As I said before, I'm leaving a lot of the sets in here just to kind of show some of the volume and what some of the workouts actually look like. Part of what I have tried to do on this channel is just really show what my training actually is, rather than just top sets or just PRs, to show what the training actually looks like. And so you can know what it looks like when you're training hard. And it's not that everybody needs to do this volume. I've said before, I've been training probably for about 12 years now, and so you build up to these sorts of things where your body can tolerate this, and this is just kind of a normal workout. This is actually kind of an easy day for me. I was excited because I didn't have to do a 5x5 or a 6x6 on deadlifts. I got to just, do 3x5, which is pretty easy. Almost fell over on that last rep because I was trying so hard to lock it out. I really had to try hard. That was about all I could do on this day. 375 on floor press moved really well. My shoulder is still feeling a little off, my right shoulder, and some of the upper back, the trap and stuff just doesn't seem to be tightening up the same way that it usually does. So there's a little bit of instability in that shoulder, but I'm working with it, doing the best I can. To be able to handle incline press and then come over and do floor press is still pretty difficult for me, as incline press is one of my weakest lifts of all. And it's just something that's bothered my shoulder in the past. So in any case, I was able to finish these out. I think I paused this last rep down here till all the inertia is out of the bar and then do a dead stop, but those almost helped me on floor press. I followed up with 10 sets of 10 with barbell rows. I'll use a little bit of body movement in these with 235, but in general, just trying to work the upper back, get a pump in the lats. All this work on the sumo form foundation and getting in a good starting position reminded me of this parable from Jesus. He talks about the person who hears a teaching or instruction, specifically his teaching and instruction, and puts it into practice. And somebody who does that, they're building their life, and in many ways they're forming their character based on solid foundations, based on the rock. And those who hear those words and don't put them into practice, they're building with sinful practices. They're not following the teachings of Jesus, and in that sense, they were not building on a good foundation, and what they were building would not stand the test, in this case a flood. And that's how Jesus spoke about his ministry, but it's also true with lifting, and especially with the sumo. If your foundation is not set well, you're never going to be able to build anything out of it. You're not going to be able to get the lockout. You're not going to be able to finish the lift, and it will come down with a great crash. Anyways, hope that's not too corny for all you out there, but I do think it makes sense. And I thank you all for watching. Hope you're doing well. Blessings.